Joining us in studio, Luther Lebelo, SARS Group Executive Employment Relations, Udo Frouza is independent political analyst, Adil Nchabeling is Transform RSA President, and Zamo Madlala, independent business and political analyst, joins us on the phone. Good evening, gentlemen, and thanks so much for joining us. Mr. Lebelo, maybe just a clarity. We heard from the Commissioner that the SARS is intending taking legal action. What kind of legal recourse does the unit have, or rather institution have?
Yeah, as our statement explains, so the contract that we had with KPMG makes it very clear that at the point of finishing with this product, being the investigation report, it then becomes the copyright of SARS. So SARS owns the copyright, it owns the report. So it becomes unlawful of you to go and comment and make this noise that they've made on the report that doesn't belong to them in the first place. But secondly, the impact that this had on the image of SARS, because I think KPMG, and maybe it's arrogance. Somebody said it's colonial arrogance, that this is an African state institution, we'll just send them an SMS. Because I'll tell you that they sent us an email on Friday and say, we looked into the report that we gave you 2 years ago, we picked up that our people didn't do particular things, we're withdrawing it. We're going to issue a media statement and we'll pay you the 23 million if you want. If you don't want, we're going to contribute it. While we were still scratching our heads, they issued a media statement. No decency to meet with us, no decency to talk to us. As we speak now, we don't even know what exactly has been withdrawn. This morning, when we were studying with after they heard that we were doing our news conference, this morning, their spokesperson sent us an SMS. He says, SARS, when you are doing your media conference, please mention that we did not withdraw the report in its entirety. We only withdrawn the recommendation. But what does that mean? You know, and on the basis of that, we felt the following. We felt that except the impact that they've done to us as SARS, the impact they've done to the country in terms of the business confidence and all other things, they have acted in a manner that is so immoral and so unethical, never heard of an institution to behave in a manner that they've done. And we believe that they do not deserve, at least to deserve business for the money that SARS collects. We are the custodian of the fiscus. We are very interested in what happens to the money. Then when you collect the money so hard, the 1144 trillion that you collected last year and the 1265 calls on 14,000 SARS employees who work day and night to collect that money. For some arrogant company, very unethical company, to behave the way they've behaved, the 23 million that they've kept there wherever they were keeping, could have built houses, could have built schools, could have built clinics. They keep it there. Now we are saying for the purpose of that, they do not deserve to do business with the state. They do not deserve to do business with us. That's why one of the things that we're going to do, we have already stopped the work that they're doing. We're going to go back in the last 10 years and check what they've done. And we're going to come to them and say, because you're in the business of just throwing money, we have looked at the report in the last 10 years. We're not happy with this report. Give us our money back. That is the attitude we want to take, because you can't act the way they've acted. It's the most abhorrent and ponderous behavior that an institution that you're servicing you can be. We're outlined in this business. Treating us like that is really, really.
But I mean, how would KPMG then deliberately flout all other means of speaking to you or engaging based on the service level agreements and understanding fully that they now cannot tamper or interfere with property that belongs to SARS if there wasn't undue pressure, as many are saying that there is a political hand in this whole space, Adil?
Look, indeed, today is a great day whereby we can actually see clearly how these particular institutions that derive its practices from a apartheid into a post-apartheid system, whereby things that were done underhanded in a hidden format are now actually coming out into play. Remember, in the past, you could do all of these kind of actions and nobody will take you to task. Here we have an executive within SARS that has actually taken a decisive decision to say enough is enough. We've had enough of all this mess that these companies have done. How do you, after 2 years having been paid monies, come back and says, listen, there's a report I gave you, and in that report, I feel a section of that report was falsified. And as a result, the false information I gave you, I'm withdrawing it, but keep the balance of the report. But in any way, I'll pay you back. This tells you very clearly that these institutions have not yet transformed. And that is why we're saying that transformation, as well as particular the movement of how these companies have built themselves has not changed. It is the same pattern that continues to actually exist, and it has been given its existence on the basis that the last 23 years, no one has ever taken into account. So it's good to see SARS and the commissioner as well as the executive within SARS taking decisive steps to address this particular level of disrespect. It is disrespectful to the institution, to the government, to the state of South Africa. This company by today should have been shut down. Its employees particularly should have been told that your bosses have messed up in the country, and the executives should have been put into prison. That should have happened.
Yeah, it doesn't matter which part of the report was withdrawn, Udo, and by that I mean in terms of the impact that it would have on other investigations. So, for example, if the information was really just fixing grammatical errors or whatever it is, because as you're saying, we don't know, does it matter what the content is, or is it just about the principle?
It's both. It's the principle and the matter. It should not just, it all matters. In fact, it's no surprise at all. Investec and KPMG have been accused of covering up the world's largest unprosecuted fraud, one that amounts to 26 billion rand in about 2012, and now we're right in 2017. The CEO of KPMG has confessed that the auditing firm should have resigned from the Gupta companies earlier than March in 2016. This cynical admission is in stark contrast to KPMG's ongoing association with the corrupted JCI, even though KPMG is conflicted and JCI has failed to publish its annual financial statement since 2011, KPMG should resign forthwith. End of story. There's no negotiation.
So, I mean, it seems like it's the beginning of the end for KPMG, a multinational firm that's been held in very high regard, considering, Zamo, that, you know, they have their tentacles in many government structures and departments, evergreen contracts, have we spoken about, the IMFS projects, etc. Where to now, in your view?
I think KPMG troubles are just beginning. Just I saw reports of today. I mean, they've been ignoring their audit report.
And just move around a little bit, Zamo. We're struggling to hear you. Just try that again.
Yeah, I'm just saying that if you look, I think it's just the beginning of the troubles for KPMG. Not so long ago, it came out that kind of audit report that allowed money to be siphoned of the state.
No, Zamo, it's not working. We're going to have to try and get you back on the line. Zamo Mazala joining us on the phone line. Explain to the taxpayers exactly why people should be disgusted by what happened today. And secondly, how then do you restore the image of SARS? We had the Commissioner Tom Moyane, almost near tears, trying to explain that all these aspersions and allegations around SARS is just to discredit its leadership.
Yeah, I think that must be accepted. Now it must be accepted as fact that since he has arrived in SARS, if there is one attempt that has been made, was to demonstrate that people of his caliber do not have the capacity to run institutions that are seen to be complex for some of South Africans, and that effort continues to go. But because lies have got short legs, from every time when allegations are thrown, SARS has demonstrated an ability to come back and clarify itself in the public. By the way, when this issue when this media statement was issued on Friday, we saw people crisscrossing media houses, the former employees of SARS, including the former Minister of Finance, claiming that no, this shows that the prosecution and the disciplinaries were unfair. And we are saying in our statement that it's either those people were grossly ignorant or were deliberate to mislead the public. Because the KPMG report was confirmed final on the 26th of January 2016. Mr. Ivan Pillay, Mr. Pete Richer, Mr. Johan Lochenberg, they were disciplined in January, February 2015. And they were disciplined as per the outcome of the Sikhakhane report. While they were facing hearing to come and clear themselves, they decided to resign. So it's illogical. It's illogical for someone to say the report that came out in December 2016 is the reason why I was charged in January. So one of the things that we even suspect, and I think the commissioner is saying that, is we hope KPMG is not playing into some funny political space of trying to do particular behaviors to try to exonerate people. In any event, if that is what they were trying, they've shot the wrong sheriff. Because the real sheriff that has made us to open a criminal case was when 2 employees demanded to see Mr. Moyane. They confessed that they were part of the rogue unit, and they installed 12 cameras, hidden cameras in the offices of the Hawks and the police. And they were given 950,000 rand in cash to buy those equipments. On the basis of that, they confessed this thing. Commissioner Moyane said they must go to the police station and open a case. He sought a legal opinion. So in terms of the act, and my colleague will know the prevention of that act, you are forced as a senior official if somebody has spent over 100,000 to report a case, or otherwise you become criminalized. And it was on the basis of that in May 2014, we went and opened a criminal case against what they call Sunday evening. So they will put the cameras in the offices of the police and the Hawks. On a Sunday evening, they sit down and download, they subscribe these activities, which is completely illegal. They claim that they were doing this job instructed by Mr. Ivan Pillay, and that's why the case were opened. And now, of course, people are saying Commissioner Moyane opened a case against Mr. Prime. No, we didn't open a case. We opened a case against Mr. Ivan Pillay and the people who have confessed. If that investigation catches Mr. Gordon, it's not our fault. We didn't open a case against him. So we are in our statement explaining that sequence so that we're telling South Africans that if there is anything that Mr. Moyane has done, was to do the right thing and open a case against people allegedly giving each other 950,000 to install cameras in the office of the police and the Hawks illegally.
All right, let's try second time lucky with Zamo Madlala, independent business and political analyst. Zamo, just to pick up on your train of thought in what's going on here with KPMG now essentially falling from grace. And I mentioned that they're very well entrenched in government business over the years. What does this mean in terms of the work that they've done already over the years and going forward, lessons for government to learn?
Well, unfortunately, it's not just KPMG that's affected here. I think it's the whole auditing and accounting, chartered accounting profession that's going to be impacted. KPMG is an international company, and if an international company can come a year and a half down the line to withdraw even a line of a report that it had written out to its institution, it's really totally laughable. I mean, at the end of the day, we don't know how the regulating bodies are. Okay, now that EBA has come out and said they're doing their own independent investigation, SAICA hasn't come out yet and said what they are doing about it. But at the end of the day, I just don't see how there can be anything plausible that would say that KPMG can continue to have an operating license within the Republic of South Africa, to really be honest. I mean, earlier on we heard Themba Godi, of the chair of Scopa, saying that if KPMG were black, well, we all know what would be happening. I mean, it should have been more than heads should roll. It should have been, they should have already been blacklisted. They shouldn't be operating in this country, and all of that. And those are the realities. It's the where you come from is still starkly obvious and relevant.
Just say on the line, Zamo, is this part of the problem that there hasn't been oversight? The way auditing firms, especially multinationals, have been treated with kid gloves, that they are law unto their own and their word is gospel, that, you know, government had failed to audit the auditors, as it were, and that the audit firm's scope of work even went above what they were meant to do. They now became consultants and interfering, if you like, in structures like the Likes House.
If I may come in here, I just would like to point out to one of the destabilizing factors that have been part of this kind of industry, be it big industry, be it mining industry, be it mobile phone industry. You find that a lot of funds have been siphoned off through various channels. And there's a very entrenched and established network. And that network clearly is hard at work to take out as much money as possible. If you look at the collapse of the rand, or the attack of the rand in 2002, under the observation of the then head of the South African Chamber of Business, Kevin Wakeford, who got sacked because he exposed it. Barry Sargent got sacked for publishing it. And you find, for example, in May 2006, Barry Sargent wrote, the CEO of JCI and a partner of KPMG, representing JCI, misrepresented the above fraud to the Scorpions. During June 2006 already, KPMG was appointed as the forensic investigators to the Scorpions, can you believe it, to investigate the crimes perpetrated by their own client. So you can see clearly there's something being wrong for a very long time. There's a very thorough book, thoroughly researched and published by Barry Sargent the late, on this 26 billion rand fraud called the Capital Collusion. And there, I would advise our friend here from SARS to get a copy and read it, because it's all in here.
Yeah.
For that alone,
I think maybe if we can summarize, for the benefit of our viewers, as to number one, what happens now, or rather, let's go back. If SARS is going to institute legal action, based on which report? I think you were onto something, saying that this was more the disciplinary action, rather, on Ivan Pillay and those implicated was based on the Sikhakhane report, not necessarily on the KPMG. So your legal action, what will inform the basis of your legal action?
I think our legal action is more on the principle let me put it this way. So the conduct of KPMG has convinced us that it doesn't deserve to do business with the state. At least not receive the money that we work very day and night to collect. They can get it somewhere else, not in South Africa. The conduct, like my colleague is saying, you go and this was a tender process, by the way. They ran a tender process, they won a tender. Another company could have won a tender that is serious, that is more ethical and moral. They win a tender, they do work for you. After doing work for you, they come. Sometime when you're sitting on your desk and they send you a message, and in 2 hours your world turns around, because then you're getting called all over. We don't even know what they've withdrawn, what they haven't withdrawn. But for them to think that they've got the right to even infringe in our document, which we have paid for, that arrogance, they must pay for them. Now, if you look at the other actions that we are taking, going to the Minister of Finance and saying they must be blacklisted, going to Minister of Finance also and say that we want Treasury to look into all the work they've done for the state. And during that time, there must be a moratorium on all of them. They must look at all the work that they've done for the state. And there must be an authentic investigation that must compare the report of SARS and all other reports so that we see where is the gap. Let me give an example. When KPMG, I was involved in the thing when this thing was done. When KPMG sold us the product, the gentleman who was the lead investigator, very expensive experience, they told us that, by the way, he's the one who investigated Jegis Levy's matter, and who's the one who was giving evidence.
You're referring to Advocate Kherina?
No. The lead investigation from KPMG.
Okay.
So when KPMG came to us, they said, this man is the best man. He was able to investigate the Jegis Levy matter. Mr. Jegis Levy matter was investigated by them. So they are trying to sell us, and we paid a big price for that person because we thought, wow, if this is what this guy can do. Now, imagine we use KPMG, for instance, to do our taxes. What if taxpayers come and sue us and say, well, if this company can make a blunder like this, what about the taxes that you guys have used them to run? They are having what you call tax practitioners. They're advising South African on how to do your taxes. What does that do? And that is a problem with arrogance. I don't think KPMG appreciated the impact of their arrogance. But for that, I think South Africans must accept that one of the struggles we're having here, as the Minister of Finance has been saying, is to have inclusive economic transformation. When institutions like them leave, they'll create an opportunity for small businesses who have been closed out to then get an opportunity. So South Africans must see that as an opportunity. They must not think that we're harsh. They must say, this is an opportunity for small business that wants to do work.
Okay,
to come
I'm afraid, very briefly, Adil, your closing remarks, and especially what it means for...
SARS has given us an entire picture here. The only thing that is actually lacking is government's decisiveness. We are not seeing any action being taken. This is the time when you would miss the actions of Scorpions, where you would see scorpions arriving at the doorsteps of people and actually arresting them and taking them to account for the actions that they've done. What we want to see is government taking action and being serious about the decisiveness of the criminal procedures and processes to actually arrest these individuals.
Okay, we're going to leave it there. Luther Lebelo is the SARS Executive Director for Employment Relations, Udo Fruza, political analyst, Adil Nchabileng, Transform RSA President, Zamo Madlala, independent business and political analyst. And we did send a list of questions to KPMG and former Finance Minister Pravin Gordhan, and we're still awaiting a response. But thanks indeed for joining us. We're back after this break.